Hiya. It is the penultimate day of our travels. I'm heading back to what's it called? Trabzon tomorrow to fly back to Istanbul to fly back to UK on Thursday. Our last day in Batumi in Georgia today has been dire. The weather, I don't know if you can see it outside there, but it's shocking weather. Since the last 2 days, it's just been absolutely horrific weather. Thunder, lightning, which I love, and terrible weather. I've just realised I don't think I put any mascara on yet. Oh, that's all right, doesn't matter. I'll do that in a minute. Is there any point there? Because it's just going to wash off, isn't it? Anyway, because it's been so horrid today, and because we were travelling for hours yesterday and stuck in a terrible queue, traffic was resembling Cairo yesterday night. I was pretty shattered today and decided not to do anything and just sleep and read and chill out. And Tim did the same. Where are you, Tim? There's Tim. And Sue went off on one of her little jaunts. Yeah. Anyway, so I did a bit of YouTubing, but I was also reading a book that I've read about 4 times now. This book here, it's a great book. It's Irresistible Revolution, Living as an Ordinary Radical, which is what I'm about. I don't want to be the same as everybody else, but live life radically and very differently from everyone else. And as I was reading this book, and as I was reading that, and also as I'd listened to a story about a hospice nurse who'd witnessed a miracle with a end-of-life patient, it reminded me really strongly of a story that I've been meaning to share for ages. A story that happened about 15 or 16 years ago. And I've been meaning to share this story. It's one of the miracles that I had in nursing with a dementia patient. So must be 16 years ago, because it's 15 years ago that I went to Romania. But before I went to Romania with Uncle Eugene and Aydin and Pat Ainsbury, I'd been told about how awful it had been there when the Iron Curtain came down, and I'd been told how various people from all over the UK were driving over big trucks and lorries and just getting over as much kit as they could into that land because it was really bad. So I was thinking I'd really love to go to Romania. I wasn't so adventurous when it came to travel back in those days, so I had to rely on some friends on how to do it and whether or not I should go, actually. But I remember praying and saying, okay, Lord, do I go to this country? Should I go to this country? What do you want me to do? And I remember praying that, and then I remember going on to night shift. And this was one of the night shifts where I had to stay awake for 2 or 3 hours, and it was a husband and wife, both have passed on now. And they were both in their 90s. They'd been married for 75 years, which is incredible. And but he, bless his heart, had latter stages of senile dementia. He was still able to walk around, but he could not communicate, not even one sentence. Even if you asked him if he wanted a cup of tea, he couldn't say yes or no. He really was in the latter stages of, just the dementia, which just completely took his communication. And his wife was very frail, but she was very compos mentis. Anyway, I got to night shift, and I'd seen to his wife, who was settled down in bed, and he was still up walking around downstairs because he didn't know what time of the day or night it was. And I was down in the kitchen sorting things out, and he walked up to me, and he looked me straight in the eyes, which was the first thing I thought, hang on, that's a bit strange. He never did that. But he looked at me right in the eyes and said, I want you to go and feed my sheep. And I said, pardon? Then he said it again, the whole time just not losing focus on my eyes, just like, I want you to go and feed my sheep. And I went, Kenneth, that's what Jesus said to his disciples after he died and rose again, go and feed my sheep. And he carried on looking at me right in the eyes, and he said, I know. I want you to go and feed my lambs. And then he changed. And his eyes went. And he just carried on mumbo jumbo. Like, just went back to being Kenneth with dementia. Very poorly and very confused. And I was absolutely like, oh my goodness. Never had that with a dementia patient before. And so I went to John 21, where Jesus said, I want you to go and look after my sheep, go and look after my lambs. And for me, I really felt like, actually, it's right for me to go to Romania, to go to this orphanage that we'd been told about. And so I contacted Uncle Eugene and Aiden and Pat, and so we made plans and went over to Romania. We flew into Bucharest. No, not Bucharest. We flew into Budapest, and then we made the 5-hour journey over the border into an area called Lipova in, now where would it be? Like kind of, it was an hour north of Timișoara, so maybe like northwest Romania. Yeah, an hour north of Timișoara, but this little village was called Lipova, very, very poor. And we were there for, I don't know, a week or 10 days or something. And very much on that trip, he really highlighted me to shepherds and the relationship with sheep. And we were in an orphanage. We stayed in an orphanage which had so many children. And I remember the first few days just being there in the orphanage, and the weather was terrible, and we were like, okay, what can we do here to help these children, this orphanage? What should we do to help? And because the weather was so bad and we couldn't really go out very much, we decided to decorate. I must try and find these photographs on Facebook actually, to decorate this massive long corridor, because one of the children had set fire to the rooms. I think it was the lounge area or something. And then the smoke damage was terrible. So for 2 or 3 days, we just mucked in and just did loads of painting and decorating. And then when we completed it, the weather brightened up and we just had the most beautiful day walking over the hills of Lipova. And I remember we were walking up this hill quite slowly, and it was beautiful. And I think I must have been way ahead of the others at this point, because I remember seeing a shepherd, a very poor shepherd man, just lying down on the grass, asleep in the sun. And the sun was literally just shining down on him, like just beams of light on him. And I was just watching him and looking at him and thinking what a beautiful thing it was to watch, because as he kind of roused from his sleep, I think as I kind of came near, he beckoned the sheep, and they just all lovingly like went up to him for cuddles, for affection, for patting, for talking. It was so beautiful to watch, and it was that follow on from Jesus says he is the good shepherd and we're the sheep, and that relationship that we have with our good shepherd, and just watching that in the real with a very poor shepherd and the love that he had for his sheep. And also just that word that had come through Kenneth in his dementia, go and feed my sheep, go and feed my lambs, and to make a really small difference in the lives of those children in that orphanage at that time. But I believe that was a miracle, guys, because I mean, I've worked with dementia all my life since I was 16, probably before actually, because I was working in nursing homes when I was 12. And never had anything like that. You might have a patient that would have a clarity for a short time for, I don't know, a history, especially things in the past, or do you want a cup of tea? Oh yes dear. But the clarity with Kenneth when he looked me direct in the eyes and said, go and feed my sheep. Kenneth, that's what Jesus said to his disciples. I know, I want you to go and feed my lambs. It was just incredible. So there's one of the miracles that I've been meaning to share for ages. I've got tons more stories. Hopefully I can do some more of the stories of the awesome things that I've seen and witnessed over the years. Now it's out into the pouring rain because it's really started hammering it down, lightning and thunder. Go and get a bite to eat before an early night, and then heading over the Turkish border to fly back to Istanbul. Bye!